Let me tell you something you already know but haven't said out loud yet. The gun you bought first? It wasn't really about the gun, it was about you. Who you were that day, what you were afraid of, what you were trying to prove, and whose voice was loudest in your head when you hit the counter. 13 types, all of them documented. Most of them are me at some point. Let's find out which one is you. Type 1. My buddy has a Glock. Your buddy has a Glock 19. That's it. That's the entire research portfolio. The employee showed you a SIG, a Springfield, a Smith & Wesson Shield. All three fit your hand better. All three matched your actual use case. One came in under your budget by $40. You nodded at each one, the way you nod at a waiter describing the specials when you already know you're ordering the burger. Then you bought the Glock 19. Here's what I need you to sit with. Your buddy has never taken a defensive shooting class. Your buddy also told you his reloads are fine, that you don't need a holster if you're keeping it in the trunk, and that one time he cleared a malfunction in under 4 seconds, which is not the tactical flex he presents it as. The Glock 19 is a perfectly good gun. That's not the point. The point is you didn't choose it. You inherited an opinion and called it a decision. I did the same thing with my first truck. Bought the same make as my college roommate because he carried himself like someone who knew things. He did not know things. I learned that lesson staring at a repair bill, wondering why I hadn't asked one single follow-up question. One day you'll pick up a gun that actually fits you. You'll feel it in your hands and go quiet for a second. That's the moment. You're not just carrying a Glock, my friend. You're carrying somebody else's conviction. Type 2. The panic buyer. Picture March 2020. Shelves stripped. Toilet paper gone. The air carrying that specific electricity that makes ordinary people do extraordinary things fast. FBI NICS background checks spiked 300% that month. Nearly 40% of those buyers had never touched a firearm before in their lives. She bought a .45 because the 9mm shelf was already gone. He bought 1,000 rounds of .380 for a gun he didn't own yet. A man who bought the boat trailer and figured the boat part would just sort itself out eventually. You didn't buy a firearm. You bought a feeling. That warm, specific feeling that comes from doing something, anything, when everything feels like it's coming apart at the seams. By 2021, gun stores were fielding embarrassed calls from people asking what their gun was worth, not quite ready to explain why they bought it in the first place. I get it. I panic bought a chest freezer that same month and still cannot fully account for that decision. The difference is, a chest freezer doesn't require a background check, and nobody's ever negligently discharged one into their nightstand. You're not just a first-time buyer, you're carrying anxiety with a serial number. Type 3. The movie poster. First gun, 0 range time, wants a Desert Eagle in 50 AE because of that one scene where a guy fires it one-handed and the bad guy goes through a wall. The employee walks him through the practical reality. $3 a round, 4.5 pounds empty. Not a carry firearm by any functional definition. He is not listening. He buys it, shoots it once, posts the video. The gun broker listing goes up the following Tuesday. The Desert Eagle is a legitimately engineered firearm that does exactly what it's designed to do. As a first gun for someone with no fundamentals, it is roughly equivalent to learning parallel parking in a semi-truck on a one-way street in the rain. The muzzle flip is violent. The round count per magazine is low. The cost per trigger pull is a very efficient instructor. The video gets 4,000 views, mostly people watching the flinch and the immediate expression of regret. He sells it, buys a 9mm, and becomes a genuinely competent shooter inside of a year. That Desert Eagle phase cost him a few $100s and a level of dignity he earns back very slowly. You didn't buy a gun, my friend. You bought a movie poster. Type 4. The guy who bought her gun. She has 2 hands, a working brain, and a voice she's been using her entire life. You decided she needed something easy to handle. Light, simple, not too much. The employee sets a pink .380 on the counter, and you nod like a man who's solved something. She didn't ask for pink. She didn't ask for a .380. She didn't ask for anything, because you never asked her. 3 weeks later at the range, she picks up your full-size .45 and runs a tighter group than you do, hands it back without a word, and you spend the entire drive home suddenly very interested in the road markings. The Micro .380 is genuinely harder to shoot well than a full-size gun. Snappier, less forgiving, a rough introduction for any new shooter regardless of who they are. If you had let her hold 3 options and pick what fit, she would have come home from the range wanting to go back. Instead, she's got a pink gun in a nightstand drawer, and you've got a story that gets shorter every time you tell it. You didn't buy her a firearm. You bought your idea of what she needed. Type 5. The divorce purchase. Every gun store employee with any instincts at all can read that energy from the moment the bell above the door rings. He wants something serious, serious caliber, serious weight in the hand that matches the weight he's carrying everywhere else right now. He has no practical definition of caliber. He has never been to a range. He buys the largest thing in the case because in that moment, the size of the decision felt like it needed to match the size of everything that just changed. He walks out with a .44 Magnum. Powerful, capable, absolutely not a beginner cartridge. The kind that teaches you humility with every trigger pull. 6 months later, calmer, a little embarrassed, he's listing it on Gunbroker for 60 cents on the dollar, writing a description that carefully avoids explaining the backstory. I'm not laughing. I have made purchases in emotional weather that I later had to justify to myself in a parking lot, holding something that made perfect sense at the time and considerably less sense now. The emotion was real. The need was real. The specific firearm selected was, let's say, aspirational. What he needed was a 9mm he could actually train with, and an honest conversation about what serious means when your life just cracked in half. He didn't buy a gun. He bought the feeling of a decision. Type 6. The YouTube expert. 4 videos. 2 of them the same channel. You just didn't notice because the thumbnails were different. Armed with that, you walked into a gun store and corrected the employee, a man who has been handling and selling firearms for 15 years, on trigger reset, on barrel harmonics, on known issues with a brand he has personally sold 400 units of. You have a browser history and a strong feeling. I enjoy gun content too. Some of those creators are sharp, experienced, genuinely doing real work. But there's a version of Firearms YouTube that functions less like education and more like confirmation bias, with a ring light and an ammo sponsorship. You went looking for evidence you were already right, and the algorithm, which is very good at its job, delivered exactly that. The guy behind the counter let you finish, answered your questions with the patience of someone who's done it 800 times, and sold you the gun you were always going to buy. His advice came from 15 years of real-world experience. Your 4 videos came from a content business optimized for watch time. You're not just a new shooter. You're carrying a comment section with a trigger. Type 7. The formerly anti-gun guy. Spent years at dinner parties, patiently with statistics, explaining why nobody needs a gun, why the data says what it says, why reasonable people have arrived at this position. Then March 2020 showed up. The shelves went empty, and he found himself in a Bass Pro parking lot having a very quiet, very private conversation with a decade of positions. He discovers the background check isn't instant. The waiting period is a real thing that applies to him specifically. He discovers 9mm running over $1 a round. He does not post about any of this. He buys the gun and never mentions it to the same people who were at those dinner parties. And listen, I'm not here to score points on this one. Updating your position when your circumstances change isn't weakness. It's just accurate thinking. What's interesting is the silence that follows. The gun that exists but never gets discussed. The position that quietly retired without a formal announcement. He becomes, over time, a responsible owner. Takes a safety course, practices, stores everything correctly. He just never says so in the rooms where he used to say the other thing. That silence is doing a lot of work. You didn't just buy a gun, you bought a revision you're carrying somewhere. Nobody else can see it. Stay sharp, stay honest, and remember, the gun you never train with is just an expensive way to feel ready. Till next time.